In this video, we're going to continue looking at linear functions and arithmetic sequences, but today we're going to be looking at it through word problems. So in this example, it says Lisa and her friend rented a canoe for 3 hours and paid a total of $45. So when I'm thinking in a word problem, I always like to choose to underline what's important in the problem. So for me, 3 hours and paid a total of $45 would be important information that I need to know. In addition, there's a sign here that has some additional information I need to know. Canoe rentals, it says it's a daily rate plus the $10 per hour. Okay, so those two parts are telling me that there's two things going on, that when I want to get a canoe from this place, I pay just for pulling their canoe out before I even am charged for how long I'm in the canoe. Then I'm charged an additional amount per hour. So there's a fee just to borrow one of their canoes. So here's what I know. This problem tells me it's 3 hours, and we know I pay $10 per hour from this part here. So if there was no fee to rent the canoe, that would be $30. It's not $30 though that it's going to cost them, Lisa and her friend, it's $45. So we can start to see what that amount is that they must be paying. But I'm going to look at this a different way. Okay, I'm going to work out the fee by actually using a data table and thinking about our common difference and what I know, and working out my next minus previous all the way back to my size 0 or my y-intercept. So down here on the edge, I'm going to go ahead and build a data table here, and I'm going to say my input or my x will be hours. And eventually I'm going to need to use an H for that, but for right now the X is really helpful for input and domain. And my Y is going to be cost, and they're going to want me to use a capital C when I eventually write my equation. So we know that at 3 hours, so if I'm going to do a data table and I know the 3, I think I want to start kind of in the middle point of the data table. 3 hours cost me $45. Hopefully that's not moving on you too much. Okay, so now I can use what I know from the problem, and I can kind of start thinking in the way of my next minus my previous, but I'm going to actually use my pattern change to work backwards. So if I want to know what 2 hours is, I know that it's $10 per hour, so if I remove $10, so minus 10 over here on the edge, I'm going to get to the amount that it was for 2 hours. So 45 minus 10 is $35, and that's what it would cost me for 2. Let's do that again for 1, and then we'll find out at 0 hours of rental, my size 0, what was it that it cost me before I even rent the canoe for any hours. So take away 10 again, minus 10, and then minus 10 one more time. Let's put that there. So 35 take away 10 is 25, and 25 take away 10 takes us back to 15. There's our size 0, or what we would also call our constant, or our y-intercept, what it cost at 0 hours. When x is 0, what is y? All right, so now that I have that, I can actually build my equation. And I might want to think of it first in the form of a linear equation in slope-intercept form. So that's my y equals mx plus b. My m is my change in my y values over my x, so that would be the 10 over 1. So if I did next minus previous, let's just prove this, 45 minus 35 over 3 minus 2, I would get 10 over 1, and we said that it was 10. Okay, so my slope is, right here, y equals 10x. What did we start out with? 15, so plus 15. Okay, so there it is in slope-intercept form, but they asked us to do it in relationship to C, the cost. So C will be, and all I'm going to do is just replace the x with an h, because that's what I said went together. So 10 times the number of hours plus $15 just for taking the canoe out is my equation. Okay, so then they ask us one last thing. What if I wanted to be out in that canoe, or Lisa and her friend want to be in that canoe for 8 hours? What's it going to cost? Well, now that I have an equation, I can do one of two things. I could continue my data table out, and there's nothing wrong with that, or I can shortcut that, use my equation, and plug in 8 for h. So C equals 10 times 8 for hours plus 15. Order of operations tells us to multiply and then to add. So C equals 10 times 8 is 80 plus 15. C equals 80 and 15, $95 for 8 hours. Okay, let's work on to 2 more problems. In this next problem called dance lessons, it says the cost for 7 dance lessons is $82. That sounds pretty important to this problem. The cost for 11 lessons is $122. Write a linear equation to find the total cost, capital C, for L lessons. Then use that equation to find the cost of 4 lessons. Okay, again, I can do a number of things. I'm going to set up a data table just to see my data kind of as an ordered pair. Here's my X, here's my Y, and my X in this case is lessons. So eventually I'm going to want to think of that as L. And my Y is cost again, just like it was in the previous problem, and they want me to use again a capital C for that. Okay, so what do I know? I know 2 things from this problem. I know 7 dance lessons cost me $82. Okay, so there's 7. It goes with 82. And I know 11 cost them $122. Okay, so from that, what can I figure out? Well, this might be a really good time for me to just think about slope. How are my y's changing in relationship to my x? So hopefully you remember that slope is m for its abbreviation, and it's the change in my y values, that's delta y or change in y, over the change in my x. The other way we think of it is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, but I think I'm going to put it in terms of what we've been working on in the last few lessons. So I'm going to do next minus previous for y over next minus previous for x, and hopefully that terminology is really starting to connect for you. All right, so my next for y's, here's my next, here's my previous. So I'm going to set up that m is equal to 122 minus 82 over, and again this would be, let me change colors here, this would be my next for x, and this was my previous. So I can do 11 minus 7, and I get 11 minus 7 is 4 in my denominator. In my numerator, 122 take away 82 is 40. So I have 40 divided by 4. How many 4s are in 40? That's 10. So that means for every 1 lesson I increase, I go up by 10. And we could prove this by going, all right, well, I'm missing an 8, a 9, and a 10 in here. I'm going to squeeze those in kind of tight. And let's just see if that works. If I go up by 10 for every 1 lesson, that would be 92, 102, 112, and yes, that would take me to 122 for the next one. So I could fill out my table and work down to 4 lessons, and that would be one way to solve this using my data table, or we could go ahead, get an equation from this, and work it that way. So you can pause the video at this point and you could go ahead and solve that. I'm going to show how to go ahead and get our linear equation by finding our b, our size 0, and then how to then use that equation and plug in 4 lessons and get out the output for 4 lessons. So here's what I know. Y equals mx plus b is my slope-intercept equation, and I know my slope. This is m. So I'm going to just replace or substitute the 10 in for the m. So y equals 10x plus b. Okay, but I don't know b. I don't know what it is at 0. So instead I'm going to use one of my ordered pairs from over here, and I'm going to plug it in for both x and y into the right spots, and then I'll be able to solve for b. And we've done this before. So I'm going to pick the 782, 7,82 as an ordered pair. 7's my x, so I'm going to do y equals, excuse me, I don't want to do the y. I'm going to do 10 times 7 for x plus b equals, my y is 82. Fix that there. And now we go ahead and we just use order of operations. We want to get our b isolated. So multiplication needs to happen first, and I get 82 equals 10 times 7 is 70 plus b. To isolate b, or to get it by itself, I need to do the opposite of what I see on both sides. So that means subtract 70 from both sides of the equation. That'll make it cancel out on this side. So I get 0 over here. At 82, take away 70 is 12, and I'm left with b over here, so I've just solved for b. b equals 12. So now I can take that amount and put it into my equation, and I have my actual slope-intercept form. So y equals 10x plus 12. Okay, so there's the equation, and if I use that equation to find my 4 lessons, I'll just plug in 4 lessons in, I should be changing these to my variables right now, so let's do that because I'm realizing I don't have it. So their slope-intercept form, change it to c equals 10 times lessons plus 12. Now I've written it in the form that they asked me to, and that's important when they give us those directions. So there's the form I want to use, and let's go right over here. Got a few arrows going on there. Let's plug in for force. So c equals, and in fact let's change to green right now, and you can follow for my final answer. C equals 10 times 4 lessons plus 12. Okay, all I'm doing is doing the math on the right side of the equation to solve for what's the amount of the cost. So multiplication before addition, c equals 10 times 4 is 40 plus 12. C will be $52. Done. Okay, one last problem very similar to the one we just did. We have fundraising. Yvonne and her friends held a bake sale to benefit a shelter for homeless people. The friends sold 22 cakes on the first day and 15 cakes on the second day at the bake sale. They collected $88 on the first day, so this goes with the 22 cakes, and $60 on the second day. Now they're telling us what we should do. Let X represent the number of cakes sold, Y represent the amount of money made, and find the slope of the line that would pass through the points given. So we don't even have to find the whole equation. They just want us to find the slope. So this will be actually shorter than the previous problem. Okay, how about we start out with a data table. They tell us to use X and Y this time, so that's going to be real easy. X is number of cakes. Labeling your data tables will make such a difference when you're trying to figure things out. And Y is the amount of money. Okay, we know 2 pieces of data, 2 ordered pairs. So we have 22 cakes, that goes here. Goes with $88 on the first day. So if I was going to plot it on a graph, it'd be 22, 88 in parentheses. And then I also know 15 cakes went with $60. Okay, so I have a next and a previous. Let me go ahead and label those like we did in the previous problem. So here's my next, here's my previous, here's my next. For X, here's my previous. And if I go ahead and set up, like in the previous equation, I will be able to find slope. So let's just remind ourselves. M equals change in y over change in x, and that could be the y next minus previous over the x values next minus previous. Rise over run. Okay, so that just means I plug them into the right spot. This is my y's, so I'm going to do m equals 60 minus 88 all over 15 minus 22. Now let's slide this up a bit because we're starting to lose our space. Okay, so 60 minus 88 over 15 minus 22. If I have 60 and I take away 88, I end up at negative 28. And if I'm at 15 and I take away 22, I end up at negative 7. Okay, so we have negative 28 divided by negative 7. A negative divided by a negative will give us a positive. How many 7s are in 28? 4. What is our slope, which is all we were asked to find? 4. So if I went further, I know that I would have y equals 4x plus our b, whatever it was, at size 0. But this is all I needed.